Well, good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are in the world right now. Thank you for tuning in to Win with Willie Leadership broadcast. Remember, we must inspire until we expire because still 2022 is still here. So still the year of no excuses. And my mantra always, inspire until we expire. What we do not see, what most of us never suspect of existence, is a silent but irresistible power which comes to rescue of those who fight on in the face of discouragement. That quote is by Napoleon Hill, and I just love that quote. But we all have that silent, irresistible power to fight on in the face of discouragement and opposition. And Win with Willie Leadership Talk Show is about encouraging us to fight on, to lead on, to serve on, to grow on, reaching our God-given potential and becoming the best version of ourselves. The best gift we can give our family, our community, and our organization is the best version of ourselves. You and I become the best version of ourselves. I am so thankful that you ask. We must first learn to lead ourselves because you and I cannot give what we do not have. Today is a special day because I have a double treat for you today. Not only is it a double treat for the show, but is a double treat for each other. I have a power couple in the house today. Dr. Christine Cutucache and Major Andrew, and they already just said I'm butchering their name, but they're used to it. And Major Andrew, and I just may go with Major Andrew and Dr. Christine. But ladies and gentlemen, these are some wonderful people I have on the show today. Look at that colorful red Christmas. They're already in the spirit. Look at them. Look at that beautiful smile. He married up. He already know it. He married up. Let me read her bio and you'll know why he married up. Okay. Absolutely. Dr. Christine, PhD, self-prescribed data nerd. I'm not going to deal with that, but she did. She put that in her bio, so we're going to go with it. She said data nerd. She is a biomedical researcher. She had held endowed, tenured senior leadership positions a decade in major urban institutions. She's also served as CEO and president of multiple companies and currently serve as CEO and COO of 3 companies and serve as a director of 2 boards. Whoa, man, I'm exhausted already. She's busy. Dr. Christine aims to empower others through data. Oh my goodness, she must love math. To generate strong returns on investments. She also loves money. To include diversification, funding streams, and successful retention and top-notch talent. Well, I'll tell you what, you and I need to hire her. Christine has led large teams and small teams and experienced various types of leadership, which prompted her for extensive research on, I like this word, effective leadership, from strategy to tactics to operations, because operations means action. She enjoys supporting individuals and small teams with impactful professional development experiences, and she finds a great reward in analyzing, there's that data comes again, an organization's data acquisition process, data analytics. She and I cannot have a lot of conversations because she's well above me. Conversations over my head already. And process improvement and subsequent return on investment parameters for organizations, both profit and nonprofit. Whew. Guys, we have a dynamite person on this show today, but let me read her right-hand person. Andrew, Major, U.S. Air Force.
Good morning.
Yeah. And you guys know I'm U.S. Air, so this is special. So, sir, thank you for your service.
Likewise, thank you.
Andrew enlisted in the United States Air Air Force a long time ago, but he found himself in leadership positions all the time, requiring him to lead. So after 4 years of being enlisted, he began his journey as an Air Force officer. In 2008, he graduated as a combat systems officer. I'm afraid of him. I am. That's okay, but he's a good guy. The major served in every leadership role, from entry level, middle of the road, and he's privileged right now towards the end of his career serving as an organizational commander. But this is what I like about him, because this is important to me. He has a passion for mentoring others. Is why he wrote the book, Leading from the Middle. When you have zero authority but need maximum influence to accomplish the core mission. In addition to his career in the service, Major he also owns 2 small businesses, including a franchise, and enjoys active living and traveling. Sir, do you have time to serve in the Air Force? You got 2 small businesses and you traveling. Okay, all right, we got that. I think you're okay. Yeah. But Andrew and Christy are working on the next book for 2023. The next book, The 4 Ways That Lack of Accountability Will Sink Your Organization. And you and I both know that. For those who listening in, the lack of accountability will sink any organization. They offer workshops and keynotes to share the message of leading from the middle, accountability leadership, the patterns of informed strategy. Christine, Andrew, thank you for being on the show today, and say hello to my audience.
Thank you so much. We are certainly honored to join you today, Professor Jeff. You know, we are ardent fans of yours, and so it is a sincere privilege to be able to join you.
Well, I am, after reading your bio, I'm more of a fan. Matter of fact, I just bow down. Can I carry your luggage?
Oh, it's very sweet. But we still have a lot to learn. There's a lot that we've accomplished in a short time, but we're still students of leadership and the life.
Absolutely. And leadership is special to my heart. Before I get started into some nuts and bolts and some heavy topics, let me ask a few questions. You guys are dressed for Christmas. Tell me about your special things you do for Christmas and the holidays.
Well, perhaps unsurprisingly, since we have coordinated our outfits today to recognize Christmas, we have matching family pajamas. That's one of our traditions for Christmas.
What good deal.
Something simple. Yeah.
How about you?
Wait a minute. Andrew, did you pick out the pajamas or did Christine pick out the pajamas?
Actually, it was kind of a family effort. So even our little man, Liam, he was part of the decision-making process this year.
Okay. Well, good
but
deal.
it was ultimately
always
what we fit into.
Okay, my next one is, where's the dog with his pajamas?
Oh, that's a bit of a bummer. Our pup passed away last fall.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, especially because
we had a good one though.
Very close. We're very, very good. Yes, I'll relax and read, sit around the fire, and spend time with the grandkids. That's so important to me, to spend time with my soon-to-be 8-year-old grandson and my 2-year-old granddaughter. They're absolutely special. Matter of fact, my grandson is having a Christmas concert at his elementary school tomorrow evening, and Paw will be in the house.
Excellent.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Our son has his this Friday.
Good deal. Well, good deal. So this is the season. Absolutely. Well, another part of my questioning for this beautiful couple, what's your favorite free time activity? Well, maybe that's probably a bad question since you never have any free time.
There it is. Oh, I mean, lately we have not had a lot of free time, but we also like to discuss things that we've been learning, kind of the books she's been reading, and just daily challenges we've had. Really just kind of We've been traveling a lot. So really just getting in better family time. I'm not deploying as much as I used to. So we haven't really had that luxury. So really it's just taking advantage of the time that I'm home and strengthen our family.
Well, good deal. Fantastic. I love to hear it. I'm glad you're not deploying as much because I don't want to share my stories about all the deployments I've had and the many Christmas and birthdays and anniversaries that I missed, but because I might start getting teary-eyed on you, and I don't want to do that. You don't want your interviewer or your host crying on the show.
Right.
Okay. Well, what's the driving force in your life? What keeps you rooted and grounded?
Our faith, absolutely. Our faith is so important to us, and that really grounds us in all decisions, our values, the things that we undertake, how we make decisions. So, that's the rock, literally and figuratively for us.
And then just not settling.
Good deal. I have a comment that let's see who's talking to us today. I have a Facebook user that's saying good morning. I'll just show it to you. They didn't allow StreamYard to use their name, but they did say good morning to you. So
good morning to you too. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, let's get into some nuts and bolts about this thing called, I think we're talking about leadership. Is that the topic for today?
Yes, sir.
Is that what we're talking about? Talk to us about your leadership journey and how did you get to where you are right now? And I know Dr. Christine, PhD, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And you're a researcher, data. And you still have your hair.
Some of it. I'm getting all of these nice sparkly highlights. Sprinkly snow,
Absolutely.
Icing on a cake,
Yes, amazing.
Yeah,
so talk to us about your leadership journey and how did you guys get to where you are and come together on this leadership journey?
I'll start us off and pass it to Andrew. When I started in higher ed, it was a little bit confusing for me how leadership worked because more times than not, I had seen leadership structures that were either the military or, a more traditional leadership structure where, you have one person in charge, maybe 5 people that report to that person, and just kind of this escalation down of who is reporting to whom. And that more traditional, I guess, structure kind of stood out to me because it was what I had seen over and over and over again. Well, enter in higher ed, and just as you know, Professor Jeff, there are committees for everything rather than a traditional organizational structure. Certainly those structures still exist, but much more differently than in other arenas, specifically the military or some governance structures. And so, sometimes I would express a pain point and, of course, your spouse gets to hear all the pain points, right? And so the spouse then shares like, why doesn't that person just do this? Or why don't you go to the person in charge of that? And I would say, well, that's not how it works. And so it would often spark conversations between us of like, okay, well, how do you motivate folks or carry an initiative forward when there isn't a traditional structure where you just say, well, you have to do that. John Maxwell obviously has talked about this extensively on getting volunteers to follow, right? Like folks that you don't have any sort of positional authority over, helping to motivate folks to see a collective vision and move that forward. And so thankfully, my spouse is much smarter than I am. And so he had all of this information to share with me on, how to lead from the middle, ultimately what we coined it. So, yeah, you want to elaborate?
Don't be fooled by that comment. I am not smarter than her. I think the 10-minute introduction you did reading her bio and proves that. But I just have I know common sense isn't common. It's a term a lot of people use. But when you are a solution-oriented person, and I've had the good experiences and the bad experience with leadership, And we can learn a lot from having good leaders, but there's also a lot to be taken when you have poor leadership of what not to do. And then, but that's also a time for you to exercise what would I have done. And because of my experiences in my career, I was able to kind of go back and forth with my wife with her experiences at UNO. And unlike the military, where we have orders and duties where you have to or else, other organizations don't have that. They can just quit. They can just go away. So, but you still need that buy-in.
Right.
You need
Absolutely.
those processes completed and in a timely fashion. So, a lot of conversations with us, and
An officer, what was it, SOS?
oh, and believe it or not, SOS are the military PME. It proved a lot of different
Yes.
good lessons that I could apply to her life also. And that was kind of the point really where everything kind of pivoted for her and her professional career as a leader.
Yeah, we had read so many books. I mean, obviously Maxwell's books, Pat Lencioni's books, you know, kind of who you would think of as the leadership gurus over, you know, the history of time. And it was really interesting to hear their different perspectives on what they suggest for leadership, and then take into account like the very operational aspects of like SOS and the military and combine those. And I kind of feel like that's where our book brings that information together and makes it actionable, because like personalities come into play, getting to know oneself and one's own strengths and weaknesses. And a lot of those are part of that operational bit. So it's just kind of that perfect marriage, no pun intended, of the information.
Good one. That was not rehearsed.
One of those impromptus. Absolutely. Look, Squadron Officer School, and then of course Air Command and Staff. I don't know if you've attended Air Command and Staff or not, but certainly. But in the midst of all of that, and doing your roles and leadership positions, and you mentioned Andrew about you can learn from bad supervisors and bad leaders as well, not so good leaders. I don't necessarily say bad, but not so good. And then some lessons you can learn from some good leaders. Talk about your mentors and why mentorship, and then the important lessons that you learn from those mentors.
Mentorship's important, and it's hard to find. It is, you have to seek it out. I guess the first thing I should say is mentors don't always find you. Rarely do they find you. You need to find mentors. So it's really upon the person to really seek out that desire and have those communications started. Again, I've been pretty blessed with my career having good supervisors. And what I find them is, or define them as good supervisors, is they care. And they understand the responsibility placed upon them to not only just make sure that my performance reports look good, but I'm also furthering my professional life or my personal life, not just professional life at the same time. And I would have to attribute my career really to Sergeant Jason Lang. He was my first supervisor when I was a young enlisted airman, who just asked like, "Hey man, are you taking any college courses?" And I wasn't. So he's like, "Just sign up for one and just go from there." And once I signed up, I eventually started going full time while I was on active duty, and pretty much had my associates in 2 years. And then, you know, towards the end of my enlistment, one of my bosses was like, "Hey, have you thought about becoming an officer?" And I really didn't. I enjoyed fixing airplanes. I very much loved what I did. But he just said, "I think you should try it." So I did. And here I am today. So just the constant push from those around me and leadership positions kind of set the stage for me wanting to kind of, what's next? I kind of put that mentality in my head of what's the next thing I can accomplish and how can I share, bring other people with me. And I would probably just go with that.
I like what you said, bring other people with you. And Christine, what about mentors in the education arena? You mentioned that everything is by committee, and you mentioned there was a lack of what I call effective leadership there, decision making, because everything was made by committee. but in the education arena, yes, I'm in there and I understand some of the challenges that we have with what I call sustainable leadership, consistent leadership, and intentional leadership. And sometimes people in key positions are in a leadership positions and do not have the skills and the forward all and the thinking and the growth mindset to be in those leadership positions. So did you have any mentors? Do you have any mentors or been exposed to any mentors in the academic world?
Absolutely. And, before we leave your point on succession planning, that is one of the main reasons that we formed our consulting company, because it's hard to know how to do everything, right? And to enable folks to get the professional development that they need and be those good mentors and good leaders. So yes, absolutely. I have benefited from great mentors for a very long time. I think I've shared with you previously that I love cars. Everybody that knows me knows I love cars. I love Formula One. Andrew shares that passion. So, when it's Formula One season before church, we are watching Formula One. So I've always just loved cars. I really enjoyed working on cars and playing around with that in high school. And thankfully, I had a teacher who reached out and said, you should really consider college. And I thought, I don't know about that. But it was enough of a push that, I went to college and had a wonderful mentor there, Dr. Kim Carlson. And she then mentored me more to pursue the PhD, because she'll probably remember verbatim what I said when she said, you should think about a PhD. But I think it was something along the effects of go fly a kite, But she was spot on. She saw something in me that I didn't see in me. And so I'm very grateful for that. And I had wonderful mentors through graduate school, through my career already. And I take it very seriously of giving back, just as Andrew does with that mentorship, because it is, hard to figure out the whole process of mentoring. And we want to make sure that we support folks really comprehensively so that they can exceed all of their goals.
You made some phenomenal points. Is giving back, paying it forward. I've heard that term used, paying it forward. We cannot give what we do not have. You have been given mentorship, so mentorship is in you, and that's how you pay it forward to help others. Because as people help you and I, our responsibility is to do what? Is to help others. I use this word analogy and mantra. Our life is a river, not a reservoir. As we pour into ourselves, we must pour into others, and things flow out of us into others. And Andrew, you mentioned the fact is that those sergeants saw something in you. And that's significant because you are radiating something, a desire. And what's so great about that, it goes into the fact, how do you help other supervisors and help leaders? Because the responsibility of leaders and supervisors, and not only to develop themselves, because you have to develop yourself in order to develop others. And sometimes we get that backwards.
Yeah.
We do something. But the other part of that is that we have a responsibility to develop those around us. And so when you encounter that, and I have to admit, sometimes on active duty, that is a shortcoming of some leaders, is developing the others around you. And so how do you encourage mentors and supervisors to be on the lookout for others so they can develop others around them, become a mentor? So how would you pass on what you have learned as a mentor to help other supervisors to become mentors to others?
Remain curious and keep on asking yourselves questions. When I was going through upgrade training, there's a lot of different ways to do something, right? And my instructor at the time said, think of the type of TC that you envision. What characteristics and traits of that person do you like? And think of other ones that you don't like. And then put together those two different things and make the perfect person that you think is good. And then try to emulate that and find out how you get to that. And which leads to asking lots of questions, asking other people, what have you done in your career to get to where you are today? And by doing so, you educate yourself. And by asking the more people, you learn the more different pathways to get to that common goal of success, but that's also, subjective. But I think just trying that thirst for knowledge.
Okay.
Yeah. Just thirst for knowledge.
And Andrew, what you just shared with me is the art of coaching, asking questions, asking more questions. And we challenge our mentee is to ask questions. As a life coach and a leadership coach, I'll ask one of my clients, they'll ask questions, and make sure you ask me questions and I'll ask you questions, because the answer to your situation lies within. And that's what we do as mentors, is that we ask our mentees questions, our mentee asks us questions. And guess what? As I'm conversationing with you, guess what? I discover the answer that I'm looking for. And some of those traits you mentioned, Andrew, and Christine, you might want to elaborate on some of the traits you look for in leaders. As you're trying to develop leaders, those around you, what are some of the characteristics, traits that you are looking for in that persons or persons?
I'd say number one, someone who's having fun. For me, fun. I want to see them smiling. I don't want to have someone walking around serious all the time. I'm glad they get stuff done, but I need someone smiling. I need someone approachable. And then if they have that face, even if they're faking it till they make it, they're at least keeping the people around them in high spirits. And then that alone can do a lot for an organization.
Okay.
So I'm gonna just start off with that one.
Christine.
Yeah, you hear a lot of folks say genuine. Normally I would go with that, but more and more recently I've been thinking more respectfulness, because, again, it all comes down to having humility and having the willingness to serve others and have others' best wishes truly in your heart. And so just practicing respectfulness in every capacity and taking that approach to leadership. So that's what I would say.
Okay. And what I'm hearing is that, especially what Andrew said, that sense of enthusiasm and joyfulness in life, and you're giving people around you hope. And guess what? You got to breed hope. In the midst of what we've been going through for the last several years, some people lost hope. And you got to have leaders around you that's consistently inspiring. And I heard what you said, fake it till you make it. You smile regardless. Give people hope, because that smile may be the catalyst to get them through the day.
That's right.
Just through the day. Sometimes a good morning might be the catalyst just to get them through the day. And what you're creating, based on what I read, part of your chapter 1, is called what I call cultural change. And you mentioned the cultural 4. So elaborate on that. When you say cultural change and cultural 4, share with my audience. Matter of fact, before I do that, let me do this first. Let me put this on the screen. And so people know I'm talking about leading from the middle. And the essence of this book is that you can be any position in the organization, you are a leader. Don't discredit yourself that because you don't have a title that you're not a leader. Leadership is influence. And I'm so thankful that Andrew and Christine wrote this book for all of us, that sometimes the person in the leadership position or the title may not be leading well, but the mission must continue. And guess what? There you are, a one striper, the janitorial staff, or at the bottom of the rung. The mission must still go forth, and you can make a decision based on leadership characters and principles. So leading from the middle, get this book. If you're looking at this, take a picture of the screen. There's the Barnes & Noble, or you can go to Barnes & Noble and just look for this book, Leading from the Middle. And I want you to do that. What a great book. But now I want them to talk about the culture of 4 from this book.
Yeah. So, some people get really nervous when you say change, right? It's a 6-letter word, but some folks will categorize it as a 4-letter word, right? Because it brings that sentiment to others. And so, anytime we're talking about change and then add in culture change, I mean, it's shock and awe in some cases, but the big take home message is really how, as you said, Professor Jeff, the looking inside yourself, trying to, do your best with any given day, with any given situation, in any position within an organization. And so that's where it starts, right? Oftentimes we'll say, control what you can control and get comfortable being uncomfortable. So those two things, and add in change, I'm sure we've just lost a bunch of listeners because are all three no-nos in a 30-second soundbite. But in reality, once you get a group on board for making change, whatever that change may be, that's where the secret sauce is, because it doesn't really matter what the change is or what the organizational next steps will be. It's really the idea and the process of getting everyone aligned. And so helping folks to better understand who they are, we often suggest that folks use like a Myers-Briggs or, Lencioni has the Working Genius as a new assessment. I really love Jim Collins's hedgehog concept as well. So, there are so many instruments that exist to better know oneself so that, I think once you see how you can contribute within a group, then you're much more willing to speak up, to contribute, to follow through. I've been involved in so many different strategic planning efforts or visioning sessions with tens of groups who, they're really enthusiastic at the actual planning. And then the next day, it's like all the things that were discussed are out the window. And it's because they failed to set up for the knowing oneself, seeing how these different interactions play together and seeing what the next steps will be. And so that's what that is all about, like a change, culture change, getting folks on board, helping people feel empowered in themselves and to see that they have a really critical role on any given team. And so we need everybody on the team. We need everybody to speak up on the team, not have it be, the loudest voice in the room or anything like that.
My goodness. Andrew, one of those moments where we can drop the mic, sir, and we can just close this thing out, but we're not going to, but absolutely phenomenal. Christine, one of the key takeaways, and I want to just elaborate, is that empower, knowing the value of you and the value that you have with the team, because what you said, we need all the skills, we need all the personalities, and our personalities are different, but that diversity in that personality, which makes us a unique and a very strong organization. That is so powerful. And I'm glad you said Patrick Lencioni. Absolutely. And matter of fact, he's part of my staff now with the John Maxwell team and multiple things. He's doing some things right now. The Working Genius is assessment I'm going to be using. It is a powerful assessment. Of course, I'm certified DISC. I use DISC quite a bit with my teams and defining their personality. Strengths Finder is another one out there that we use sometimes as well. But it's important that we get to know what our strengths are and what we bring to the table in our personality, because we'll go through life and not knowing our value and who we are and what we can bring to the team. And it behooves for supervisors and leaders to administer some of those, what I call personality profiles, so they get to know their team and know what their weak and know what their values are. Because if we have a value incongruency, it's very destructive, because you're asking me to do something that I am not capable of. My personality doesn't fit this particular profession. Because sometimes we put leaders in position based on tenure, based on time, and they're not ready and they fail. And if they fail, the organization fail and fail as well. So significant. And of course, Andrew, I'm going to ask you this question, sir. This is all about you and me and the Air Force. And one of the underbridge about the Air Force and any organization, but I'm going to use the Air Force as a speaking point, is servant leadership. Because chapter 2, it talks about those profiles, those understanding those profiles, and the essence of everything is servant leadership. Talk to me and talk to my audience about the significance and importance of servant leadership.
Again, it's the whole notion of empowering others. It's you're put in a position not to be the boss, but you have been given the responsibility for a certain goal, and it's your responsibility to use those around you to give them the ability to work collectively to make that goal happen. Mm-hmm. And I think it's that simple. It's just the empowerment of others, and knowing the humility is also another word you could use, obviously, mm-hmm. the humility of it. And then a lot of times you can see people, when they're given positions of authority, they just run with it. And then it's all about them and their performance reports rather than the achievements that are the people doing the work, and then taking all the credit for yourself as the guy at the top. We don't want that to happen.
I've been watching recently, and now you may know this, Andrew, but chief selection just came out recently. Selection for E9 Chief Master Sergeant in the Air Force. And I watch a lot of it on LinkedIn and keep track of a lot of folks. Most of the people now active duty are my sons and daughters, be honest with you. They are. But I'm so inspired to see the level of leadership and experience and being inspired for all these E8s being selected for E9, which is the number one, which is the 1% of the top of the listed corps in the United States Air Force. Mm-hmm. But seeing some of the posts on LinkedIn, and one of the things that I see most, they're thinking the people that help get them there. Mm-hmm. They're thinking the people that they served along the way. They giving credit to others. That's what I hear a lot. And what we do as leaders in servant leadership, you've seen the traditional hierarchy, which is at the top, and you got the pyramid, and everyone's at the bottom. Servant leadership is the opposite, is that I'm responsible for serving up, and those are the people that are responsible for executing the mission, to empower them, to give them the things what they need. Ask the question, what's their birthday? How can I help you? How can I help you grow? That sergeant said, are you taking college classes?
Right.
That is absolutely so significant. My part of what I want to do is because you two are a power couple. You're doing some amazing things. I'm impressed. Yes, you are. You're a very powerful couple. I'm impressed. Literally, I'm going to talk about you. I'm going to talk about this book. I'm going to share this book with others. I'm hosting an event next month in my hometown of Carthage, Texas, and it's called Live to Lead. And is focused on developing the leaders, the county commissioners, the city councilors, the police chief, the fire chief, the CEO of the hospitals, the school superintendents, college presidents, all those key players in leadership positions. I want them in the room. And my focus is about servant leadership and community and connecting. They're in the title position, but they're responsible for the others. And most of them know that. But as we get in, we can't allow our leadership to become stale. We must continue what I call refresh and sharpening the saw. The 7 habits of highly effective people is sharpening the saw. And goes to this question: how do you keep yourself inspired while you are responsible for inspiring others to execute the mission?
I guess I see what's going on around the world, and you kind of alluded to it earlier. There's not a lot of hope. And when you have the responsibility over an organization or a deployment, whether how big or how small it is, I feel that it's important to maintain the focus of why you're there, and having that communication with other leaders. So discussions with my wife, with the situation she's had at university and now running these companies and the boards, hearing other vantage points of leadership and different situations or problems that they're facing, whether it's in a organization or an office. Just having those conversations, I think.
Having those conversations, significant. What about you, Christine?
I've mentioned, knowing oneself really well. And it comes down to that, I'm an introvert. And so I know I need time to myself, quiet time every day. And so just staying grounded with a book, a good cup of coffee, just the habitual things of things that I know work well for me really help me there. So, just maintaining those good practices, having good discipline with those types of things. Yeah.
In other words, I'm hearing that you have to keep pouring into yourself in order to keep pouring into others, keeping yourself inspired, those quiet times. And this is what I've asked some of my constituents and clients, and I'll ask the question no matter what the group. I may be in a group of school teachers, school principals, or superintendents, or some other church leaders, and I'll ask the question, who is the most important person that's walking the face of the earth? And of course, obviously, you get my mother, my grandmother, and I said walking. And of course, sometimes they'll say Jesus. I said, well, Jesus is, I know he's walking in you, with you. You carrying him, you carrying his spirit. But physically right now, walking the face of the earth, not no one has passed, but a walk in the face of the earth. And you get multiple answers. Sometimes I'll ask some of my students. But my message to them, Andrew and Christine, is that I want them to see the importance of themselves first. So right now, I need to make sure I'm investing in me. And when I invest in me, I can invest in others. See yourself as significantly important. I didn't say that you're greater than. You're not greater than, but you are significantly important, and you are the most important person right now, because I can't serve my family well unless I take care of me. I can't serve my organization well unless I take care of me. And Andrew, and I think Christine, you have seen people that have really, really forced not take care of themselves well, but abuse themselves, thinking that they are helping others. And they sometimes neglect their own family, their health, their well-being, thinking that they're serving others well. But in essence, they're not serving other worlds when you deny yourself of great sleep, great food, exercise, quality time, vacation time, all those different things that I know. And Andrew, sometimes our commanders will be there to midnight, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and all of a sudden the attitude changes because they're getting what? Burnout. They're getting burnout. And so they're not serving the organization well. And we have to step back sometimes. So self-care is significantly important that we do that. But sometimes, Andrew, you've heard this core value, service before
self.
You've heard that, haven't you?
Service before self. Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah, you've heard that. I've heard it a lot. And matter of fact, I still say it sometimes. But in essence that has a meaning.
It does.
But take care of self. Take care of self. And so my closing comment or my closing question to you what type of resources and Christine, you mentioned books, and I think you said you read a lot of books. I heard you mention Patrick Lencioni, John Maxwell, but just throw out some authors and throw out some books out there so my audience can listen, so they can take some note. They can go back and replay this, and they can write down some names of those authors and names of those books. I consider valuable resources. These resources become their coach. So share some resources with my audience.
Sure. I always like having a range of different types of books. So I enjoy Abraham's It's Your Ship. I certainly enjoy I certainly enjoy the Lencioni, series, same with the Maxwell series, but I also really like Steve Farber's work. So like The Radical Edge. Because, it's a different kind of writing where it's the leadership principle, but as a fable. And it's short and sweet, and it really gives a powerful message. And sometimes I think when we think about leadership books, people are thinking like, oh my gosh, is this a textbook? I'm learning about leadership. And I think Farber does a great job of just making it very approachable and just a conversation, and almost like it's fiction, but it's all of those leadership principles sprinkled in. So those are some of my personal favorites. Yeah.
Good deal. Good deal. Well, this is what I want. I I think I got this right. And so if people need to reach out to you, your email's address on the screen. So please take a look at the email address. Reach out to this powerful couple. And you have my permission. I think you have their permission. You can call them Andrew and Christine. They'll be okay with that.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to make you say our last name.
So please reach out to them. They can become a long distance mentor. They can share their resources, and your organization certainly purchase the book. But reach out to Andrew and Christine. They have a lot to share. They have a lot of experience, and they come from different diverse backgrounds in academics and business. And then Andrew from the military and as the Air Force, and he also has multiple businesses. So they have a lot of diverse background to share with you. So please reach out to Andrew and Christine. And of course, make sure you purchase this book and be prepared for the next book, Leading from the Middle. Leading from the Middle. And guess what? You might consider yourself at the bottom. You still can lead. No matter where you are in the organization,
100%.
you still can lead. So Andrew, Christine, thank you so much for spending time with me today, spending time with my audience and sharing your life experiences. Because the reason I say life experiences, because leadership are life experiences.
Yes, sir.
And leadership is about life. Life is about leadership. So thank you so much. Look at this beautiful couple. They got their red and polka dot shirt on. They're ready to go. And Andrew, sir, you are a bad man because you married up, sir. So my audience, thank you for tuning in to Win with Willie Leadership Talk Show. Remember, don't forget, Win with Willie Leadership Talk Show is about encouraging us to fight on, to lead on, serve on, grow on, reaching our God-given potential and becoming the best version of ourselves. Because the best gift we can give our family, our community, is the best version of ourselves. Wishing you peace and joy, sending lots of love your way. Merry Christmas and hugs and kisses. Good tidings we bear to you and your family. I hope your Christmas is filled with laughter and prosperity. Remember, we must inspire until we expire.